A defeat, both for Jandão and Inácio. Not just one, there were several. The almighty, rare, great, right? A character here in Brazil. He decided, as you must have seen, to revoke the legal rights of two professionals in the defense of Felipe Martins. Immediately. Of course, Dr. Chikini, who is now known throughout the entire country, spoke out, fought, took action, and reported it. Bang! Glenn Greenwald speaks out on his social media. The situation starts to spread throughout the United States. Another absurd decision. And believe it or not, don't think he wasn't scared. After all, both he and his wife, their children, could also end up getting into trouble. Regarding the Magnitsky Act, because the media is trying to convince you that Lula is Trump's best friend, but we're seeing something completely different. And that's when the accusation from brilliant journalist Glenn Greenwald made it reach the White House, and Zondo ended up backing down. I'll show you everything here. The prize given to Maria Corina, the Nobel Peace Prize, which many were expecting until President Trump ended up winning, was a great opportunity. Here in South America, Maduro's main ally, Lula, got a message right in his face, straight to the guy's face. The Partido dos Trabalhadores supporters are completely panicked. Women's strength is about to grow a lot. Lula is losing power on an international level. Only Globo is left. You all know where, right? I'll show everything here, so hit that like button. There are a lot of victories happening. Of course, right? My friends, we're living in a dictatorship. So we're seeing things happening on an international level in this political chess game. Come be part of our family by subscribing to the channel. That's what I'm telling you. Alexandre de Moraes. Guys, the media is really embarrassing themselves. The cable news network activists, they published the story. After missing the deadline, Moraes removed Felipe Martins' lawyers. They lied. No one missed the deadline. Felipe Martins' lawyers did not miss the deadline. So much so that Elon Musk's ex came here and called cable news network liars. There was no missed deadline. The lawyers filed their objections in due time against the fact that the Attorney General's office included new elements in the case files illegally before the closing arguments. The official statement from the defense makes this clear. It's right there, isn't it? So we show it here, this one, we come here later to show you, right, that the report, right, about all this atrocity here by Chikini, right? He removed me from Felipe Martins' defense because he didn't want to be confronted with the truth. It's not the first time Alexandre de Moraes has tried to silence me. During a hearing, the minister himself even muted my microphone, as if he could simply turn off the truth and silence the defense with the click of a mouse. I know I've been disrupting the plans of the established regime, facing laws and the arbitrariness of the justice system and all that. The information he put here, he ended up talking about it, right? All these measures they're taking. Guys, Moraes, this time of all the most outrageous things. He took away Felipe Martins' right to defend himself. In other words, imagine the person hires a lawyer, is there with their lawyer, but it doesn't matter. Dr. Chikini is brilliant, but he'll never win. Never. Felipe Martins can hire the best lawyer on earth. He will never win. He can present all the evidence in the world. He will never win. Not him, President Bolsonaro, Braga Neto, or Admiral Almir. None of them. No personality who is above Alexandre de Moraes under his rapporteurship. It won't work. It's no use. It's no use. Whether with Dr. Chikini or without Dr. Chikini, we know very well what the result is. But that just shows how outrageous it is. How can the guy just remove the lawyers already? Sorry, Dr. Chikini, I'm not saying that I always say he's a brilliant lawyer, one of the greatest, but he won't win. He's already lost. No, there's no justice in Brazil. He could be the greatest lawyer on the planet. But then what happened? Glenn Greenwald reported it. One of Moraes' worst abuses is his conduct in the Felipe Martins case. This includes jailing Martins for 5 months based on a clear falsehood. He has an obsession with Felipe, which leads to tyrannical behavior, even by Moraes' low standards. It reached the United States because the matter involved it. And then Moraes ended up having to back down. Let's see here, Dr. Cicchini, he ended up talking about this. It happened just a little while ago, he still hasn't decided.
We should be fair when there is justice. I want to publicly thank the National President of the Order of Attorneys of Brazil, Dr. Simonetti, and the Brazilian Bar Association who intervened in this arbitrariness that we, the defense of the accused Felipe Martins, suffered. A decision has just been issued by Minister Alexandre de Moraes, reconsidering his decision from yesterday. De Moraes has just ended it and opened a deadline for us to present our final arguments within 24 hours. A court decision must be followed and appealed. As I said several times throughout the day, we did not miss the deadline for the final arguments. We only question new documents brought by the prosecution. That's why dismissing the court-appointed lawyers in this way was illegal and unfair. The legal profession gains from this decision. Our closing arguments were practically ready, but they hadn't been submitted yet, even though we were still within the deadline. Because we had an incidental prejudicial substantive situation that was caused by the Office of the Prosecutor General. The Office of the Prosecutor General caused this turmoil by introducing new elements. Untimely elements were introduced unnecessarily. Any procedural turmoil was caused by the Office of the Prosecutor General. It's basic that in closing arguments you don't bring new elements, and the Office of the Prosecutor General brought new elements. And we, within due process of law, question this according to the law. But that's a settled matter. Let's comply with the decision. Let's present our closing arguments. Especially since we have already proven Felipe Martins' innocence during the proceedings. So the minister reconsidered the decision. I, Jeffrey Cicchini, and Dr. Ricardo are still formally and officially on Felipe Martins' defense team. We will present the closing arguments because we are still within the deadline, but we will continue to challenge this illegality committed by the Prosecutor General's office in violating due process of law. Bringing these new elements.
Great work that Dr. Cicchini has been doing. But there's no justice here in Brazil. But aside from Brazil, look at this situation, right? Now let's go to Italy, from Brazil to Italy, because the Italian justice system has just handed one of the biggest defeats to Moraes. He lost in the United States with Alan dos Santos, he lost in Spain with Oswaldo Eustáquio, he lost in Poland with Didi Red Pill, Adriano, right? And now he loses in Italy. It's right here. The Italian court has just granted that the restrictive measures imposed on expert Eduardo Tagliaferro, former advisor to Minister Alexandre de Moraes at the Superior Electoral Court, were partially lifted by the Court of Appeal of Catanzaro in Italy. The decision was announced a few days after Tagliaferro was formally notified about the extradition request sent by Brazil to the Italian authorities. The judge clarified that Tagliaferro was subject to 2 precautionary measures, including the obligation to remain at home. Everything has been dropped. The Italian justice system, because after he explained what is happening in Brazil, the Italian judiciary got scared. With what is happening here in our nation, his lawyer talked about the matter. It was the final blow, another international one for Moraes, after Trump, now in Giorgia Meloni's country.
The defense team established here in Brazil for Mr. Eduardo Tagliaferro is pleased to announce that the precautionary measures in Italy have been revoked and he is now free to travel throughout Italy. This is the first step to demonstrate that the extradition process is completely flawed, unnecessary, and aims solely and exclusively at persecuting Mr. Eduardo Taliaferro. Let's move on to the next steps.
Imagine when you have to explain to a foreign judge that here we know how things really are. That our judiciary, the highest court of the judiciary, works this way.
The guy is the judge, the guy is the defendant, he's the prosecutor, and now he wants to choose who the defense attorney is. Some still claim this isn't a dictatorship.
In other words, we're not lying here. Brazil is living under a dictatorship. They constantly discuss the '64 dictatorship, but it was far worse than what they claim. Because back in 1964, what we see from history, of course, the media will tell you something else. Globo that supported it back then in the past. You who are older, people who are older than us. I was born in '79 at the end of the dictatorship, in the year amnesty was granted. But you who are a little older, did anything happen to you? Were you arrested? Do they talk about the army? Did the army beat you with batons? Did the army persecute you? Did the army come into your house? Did the army have a court that put you in prison? Did you or any family member go through any hardship? So with the dictatorship they talk about, that was terrible for Brazil? That killed so many innocent people. Were you harmed? My father wasn't. He was born in '48. My mother in '58 wasn't either. My grandfather on my mother's side wasn't either. My godfather, actually, my grandmother, my godmother on my mother's side wasn't either. Thank God they're in our father's arms now. Grandpa and grandma now on dad's side. My beloved grandma, my grandma Maria, and my grandpa Gonzalo. Neither of them was harmed either. Nor my uncles on my father's side, nor my uncles and aunts on my mother's side. I'm talking about my aunt Zildinha, my aunt Vera, my uncle Jesus, my uncle Tadu. On my mother's side, both my uncle Zé Gonçalo, my aunt Nalia, my uncle Agenor. There are so many uncles, my uncle Cido. They weren't affected either. These are on my father's side. Always, all of them are good people. They've never been to a police station. You can leave it in the comments. Now, bum communists who used to rob banks, who planned ambassador kidnappings, who did all kinds of protests. To turn this place into a Cuba, into a proletarian country, into a nation of the proletariat. Those guys had it bad, those guys had it bad. Now here, where they say there's no dictatorship, that over there was a dictatorship, here is not a dictatorship. I'm seeing thousands of people who have never even been to a police station, who don't have a single piece of evidence against them, and they're in jail. Did you see the Supreme Federal Court? You're a bit older. Did you do anything back then? About the military? Now here now. As I said, you can have the best lawyer on the planet. It won't solve it. It won't solve it. You can have the best lawyer in the world. It won't solve anything. But in these moments, we see the atrocities that are happening, especially coming from the biggest one. Let's put it that way. It should be the highest legal entity in the country. It's absurd. It's absurd. Look at how many people I mentioned here. They say it was so horrible. I mentioned both my father's and mother's families. None of them were ever arrested during the dictatorship. Dilma was. They robbed banks. That guy, Gabeira, Lula, only good people, right? Only good people. So my friends, that's the fact. Look. Trump sent a clear message to Lula. It was a clear message. Look at what Ivan Kleber says. Nicolás Maduro offered to hand over control of Venezuela's oil, gold, and other resources to American companies. He even offered to break ties with China, Iran, and Russia to avoid a military intervention by Trump. It's nonsense. He claims he'll hand it over but won't. He just wants to cut ties. Trump is going to enter Venezuela because he needs to send two messages here in South America. Two, he won't allow drug cartels here because they reach the United States and dictatorships here in South America. He runs the world. Thank God that's how it is. That was the message. Then Maria Corina, she went there and managed to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Venezuelan opposition leader discusses the election and accuses Lula of supporting Maduro's abuses. She, who was then humiliated by this slacky here, this one, a real bum. A guy who farts in the wind.
I know. Here in the report, Michelle Bachelet asked to set up a human rights office, and the Human Rights Office was created. It's important that when people judge a country, they don't do it just based on what they read.
Enough, take it away. He's too disgusting. Exposing is disgusting for you. A rotten person like this, right? Look here. Partido dos Trabalhadores signs the São Paulo Forum resolution recognizing Maduro's win in Venezuela. They acknowledged it. The rigged election over there in Venezuela. They claim Bolsonaro is anti-democratic. Now, with this victory of Corina, the Venezuelan leader for the Nobel Peace Prize, it will be much easier for Trump to take action. In short, he's gradually gaining full control here in South America. That's because he's the best friend. He's Lula's best friend now, according to Globo, right? Yesterday an enemy, now a best friend. What a nefarious bunch. Let's take a look at the details here. Check this out. Venezuelan activist and opposition leader against Nicolás Maduro won the Nobel Peace Prize today. In a statement, the Norwegian Nobel Committee said it awarded the prize to Maria Corina for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. The statement continues. In the past year, Ms. Machado was forced to go into hiding and now lives in hiding in Venezuela because Lula's best friend. If he gets the chance, he might even kill Maria Corina if she shows up now. Imagine, she won the Nobel Peace Prize but can't even celebrate with the Venezuelan people. Look here, Nobel Peace Prize. I'm crying, President Lula, because Lula said she was a crybaby. Maduro stole the election in Venezuela, rigged it there, and called Maria Corina and said, "Hey, stop crying, Maria Corina, stop crying." Then she wrote, "I'm crying. Lula, are you saying this because I'm a woman? You don't know me. I'm fighting to defend the rights of millions of Venezuelans who voted for me in the primaries and those entitled to vote in free elections." Guys, this communist crowd, look, this is going to end. It's going to end, okay? He knows it's ending and will do anything, giving away all he can and can't. He knows it's going to end. It really is. Share this video on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, and hit like to help us on the platform. Join our family by subscribing to the channel. I'll return soon with more news on the Paise Filos channel.